If you've been trading for at least a week, you probably have seen stuff like this. A shot that just doesn't roll back. Stuff like this, where a second shot kills your stop loss. Stuff like this. Stuff like this. And of course, stuff like this. So what can be done about this? Let's dive into the diary. First, let's watch an example of how this works, and then I will explain what exactly is happening. That was great, wasn't it? Alright, so I came up with an idea on how to deal with this when I saw some sort of pattern. So here you see we get a stop loss, but then the coin goes up and up and up, and then maybe it goes down after a while, but then there is this opportunity here. For this one, again, this one, whoa, look at that. That's a huge opportunity here, all the way up to, let's say, 2% maybe. Now for this one, again, it's taken away my stop loss and then it went up. This one looks a little bit hairy here, but then again it went up. So what exactly have I done? All right, the idea is that once I have a shot and it triggers a stop loss in the end, I want to take advantage of the coin going up. So I open another buy order here, hopefully at the very bottom of this turnaround, and then I try and take as much as possible. Let me show you exactly how this works. So to test this theory out, I set up a test algorithm. It's a pretty simple algorithm. It just takes two of the most active coins at the distance of 0.95, and it has this aggressive take profit that I've told you about in previous diaries. But what's different here is that it now has a trigger. It's called buy stop loss filled trigger main algorithm. It doesn't really matter what it's called, as long as you here select stop loss filled. Once you save that and run it, in your Triggers and Actions tab, you'll see a trigger, and now we need to tell Moontrader what to do with this. Next, I have created a backup algorithm. Let's stop this one for now. The backup algorithm is a little bit more intricate. So here we've got only the USDT quoted asset, no whitelists, no blacklists. Its setup is very basic until we get to here, to the algorithm parameters. The distance for this backup algorithm is 0.5, the buffer is 0.4, whatever, not that important. The follow price delay is the usual 1 second, which means what is the delay before the order starts catching up with the price. Now here is where it gets interesting, the replace delay. It is usually defaulted to 0, and it indicates what the delay should be before the order starts running away from the price. Here we're at 15 seconds, and in your regular algorithms, you probably don't want that. You want 0, you want the order to run away as fast as possible, but here I've got 15. Let me explain why. Here in this picture, once the stop loss was triggered, the order for the backup algorithm was set at around 0.5. If we take a ruler here and try and trace it, yeah, it's around 0.5, which is correct. Now, why am I not moving this? This is because I'm waiting for this turnaround to happen. I'm giving it a little buffer of 0.5. I'm not trusting that the price is going to turn around immediately as the stop loss gets filled. So I gave it this wiggle room. And here in the very first example, the order waited here quite stoically, and it got filled. It opened a position. If we were to use a regular replace delay setup, we would have seen the order running away, and it would take a whole new shot in order to fill this order. But here, with this slow movement of price, we got our order filled. And it would have stayed here for 15 seconds if it didn't get filled. So let's check this out. 29, 41. So it was 12 seconds. It was just about to move and get back to the distance of 0.5 from the price. But it got filled, which is good. Let's see what we also have in this algorithm. Here we have a take profit of 3%. And that's pretty greedy, but I'll explain why in just a second. For a stop loss, I have a 1.5% with a delay of 3 seconds, just to allow for a little bit more movement of the price in the unfavorable direction before it turns around. And then the important piece is here, the second stop loss. The trigger distance is 1, which means after the price moves in the favorable direction from the point where the position was opened, moves 1% in the favorable direction, then the stop loss, the second stop loss gets triggered. The percentage is 0.75, which means the new stop loss will be set at 1.5 minus 0.75, which is again 0.75. And then it also adds trailing with a spread of 0.05. So let's see how this worked. Here we have the initial stop loss set at 1.5%, which is exactly as the algorithm said. Now, what happened here? Why did it immediately jump up? Well, that is because I'm on the latest release of Moontrader, and it does not allow you to place stop losses below the liquidation line. This one is at leverage 50, so according to the research I did with Bybit, and you can check out my video about liquidations, for leverage of 50, the actual liquidation line would be at around 1%. So here we go to 1%, and you can see that this point, minus 1.5, was way below the liquidation line. So Moontrader actually moved it up to where it actually makes any sort of sense. So this explains the first move. Now, it stayed here at about 0.8%, and then at this point jumped up. Why? Well, let's see what happened at this point here. If we take again the ruler, right here, the price was about 1% from the initial starting position, from the opening of the position. That triggered the second stop loss, so it jumped to here, supposedly to 0.75. So let's verify. Yeah, somewhere around there. All right, and now the trailing stop engages. So as long as the price keeps moving in the favorable direction, the stop loss keeps following it. And it did follow it all the way up to here, but then the price again turned around and went downwards. That's where the stop loss waited for it. So with my backup algorithm, I actually got a take of around 1.2, 1.3%. So let's look at the reports. The reports say that here, this is where the original loss happened, minus 2.91%. This is here. And then this is the algorithm clone, and it made 1.2%. So this whole setup together made about 0.9% or 0.86%. That's quite a good backup. You lost 0.3 and then you made 1.2. I think I forgot to explain the cloned algorithm. So here under actions, it's not running, so I have to stop it in order to show you what's inside. So here it's the name of the action. You can put in here whatever you want, but here it's important to have the same trigger name as in your original algo, the one that you trade with, not the backup. And here under the do section, you select your backup algo. It's called action test. And then what's important is to have the trigger symbol selected here. Remember, the original backup algorithm here did not have any whitelists, it had only USDT. So when this algorithm gets cloned, the main algo from here passes onto it the coin that had this triggered, for lack of a better word. So you take the symbol, and then there is also a lifetime, which means how long this cloned algorithm is being active. So here I set it at 45 seconds. So if in 45 seconds we do not get a trade like this one here, then we cancel this and no backup worked at this particular point in time. Yeah, so when you set the whole thing up, you have to first of all start your main algorithm. You do not start your backup algorithm, but you do start your action that clones the backup algorithm. So that's what it's supposed to look like. Here, main algo works, backup algo is stopped, and then the action is here, and the trigger is here. One important thing for the backup algorithm is to have it set to run once. Otherwise, you may get lots of unwanted position if the coin continues on the downward trajectory and gets these orders one by one going down. We're going into the averages territory, and you don't want that for now. So have it run once, or alternatively, set a quite big restart delay that is greater than what you have set in the triggers and actions here for lifetime. So it's 45 seconds. As long as the restart delay for the algorithm is greater than 45 seconds, you're good. You're not going to get too many positions opened if the price were to go down. So this worked out very, very well for my very first test. But I guess it wouldn't work for every kind of situation. Here I have some more stuff to show you. In this case here we have a liquidation. It is not a stop loss, so it will not trigger any action. You see, the liquidation is not tied in the report to any specific algorithm. Well, I've had one recently here. Again, got a liquidation, and it's opened by n/a, which means that whatever triggers or actions you might have, they would not start, they would not work, because it is triggered, it is initiated by the algorithm. And here Moontrader doesn't know what algorithm this refers to. So yeah, the first caveat is that for liquidations, the trigger setup wouldn't work. Secondly, there is stuff like this, where if I were to open a position somewhere here, this requires too much wiggle room, like 3%. So my stop loss for the backup algorithm would have been closed somewhere here. And it would add insult to injury. Same here. I don't even know what to do in this case. Maybe if we set up a second layer of backup algorithms at a pretty big distance, 3%, and then maybe catch the turnaround, but then who knows. Here, it's not as dramatic, but then this coin never really got up until somewhere around here. it first went further down, another 7%. I don't know what kind of backup could save us from this. So yeah, there we go. This is only a test setup. You can play around with different settings to cater to many different situations. It's just the one I threw together, and it worked the very, very first time it ever was triggered. But what you can do is look at the distance that you want your backup algorithm to start at. You might look at the length of time you want the order to stay put before moving away or towards the price. You can play around with the lifetime of the action, the lifetime of the clone of this backup algorithm. You can play around with second stop loss settings. I mean, here it stayed at least 0.75 away from the price. So this is potentially what it could have gained if it stayed closer. But I mean, if it stayed closer, this little turnaround would have closed it already. So there's still stuff to figure out. And here, if it stayed quite far away from the price, let's say at the distance of a little over 1%, then we would have gone something like this. So until the turnaround is greater than 1%, we could have closed somewhere here maybe. But yeah, this is one of the ideas how to deal with these shots that do not roll back on you. Take it with a grain of salt, play around with it yourself. I know I will. So yeah, happy trading, and I will see you in the next video.